Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to the Chicago Reserve Basics bidding class. Rachel and Jason put this together, and so I'm excited to watch it and learn as much as possible. There's only a few people in the waiting room as of now. Please make sure your stuff is muted. If you have questions, throw it in the chat. I will try to monitor it, but so will they also, and then answer any questions that you have. So I will pass it off to you two. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome to our Reserve Bidding Basics class. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen here on our end. Let's see, all right, welcome to Reserve Bidding Basics. A little bit about what we're going to cover in our class today. Or first, I guess I should introduce ourselves. My name's Rachel. I am a BCR here in Chicago. Been flying for about 11 years now. And
I'm Jason. I'm also Chicago-based, BCR, which is a base rep for Chicago, and I've been flying for 6 years.
So we are excited to share with you some day-to-day information about how you will bid monthly for your reserve days off for the next month, as well as how to use the Lineholder Reserve Designator tool before the monthly bids open. What golden days and flex days are and how you can submit your preferences for those. Your daily bidding with ROTA and ROTA D, which is for tomorrow's assignments or for things you want to bid for today. And then we'll also touch on something that's exciting that's happening. We are getting the electronic communication system and transitioning away from what are called one alerts, which are text to our phone, into this new communication system. We'll start out with the Lineholder Reserve Designator tool. This is something that displays your status for the upcoming month. So it could say Lineholder, Reserve, or Tentative. What this tool is open from the 3rd at noon Central Time until the 7th at noon. And the results come out on the 10th. So this is especially important for someone that may have reserve as they're showing up on their toggle switch, and they decide that they would like to see if they can hold a line rather than be on reserve. And so they'll toggle the switch over to Lineholder. If you hold a line or if once bids open, it will show you what your status is, which potentially you could get Lineholder, or what could happen is you could
Okay.
If your final status is reserve, and you toggle to Lineholder, you still want, what's really important is if you need a backup bid, because if you toggle to Lineholder and your status still shows reserve, you will want to back yourself up bidding both align and reserve tabs. This is if you are in the bottom reserve seniority at your base, because you could be
You could be junior bumped into having a line.
right.
Yeah. The bottom seniority or the people who toggled if they wanted a line. So either situation.
Yes. And if you right, you could be assigned in reverse seniority order. So that is something that opens the beginning of each month, and before bids open, that you can toggle your status.
I don't know if we said, but it is on the crew portal page. So if you're new and you haven't seen this yet, when you log into crew portal during that time window, it pops up next to your calendar. So it's only there for those designated days. You won't see it outside of that window.
And the next slide here is for your monthly bidding. So this is what, after the LRD tool is closed, as a reserve, you will bid in, or as a reserve or a Lineholder, you'll bid in PBS. PBS allows you to express your preferences for your days off that will construct your monthly schedule. So PBS will award you your schedule based on 7 layers of preferences and the legal patterns that are available to you at your seniority. So to begin a reserve monthly bid, you will click onto the reserve tab. I think that this will show a little bit here. You can see at this one in particular, up here at the top of the page, it says reserve days off, and this is where you'll be doing your reserve bidding. The PBS monthly bidding opens on the 10th of each month and closes on the 15th of each month. And the award comes out on the 18th of each month, all at noon in Central Time. Each month, we have some important information that shows up on the PBS dashboard. A lot of it is maybe a little bit more relevant for a line holder, but things that are especially important for someone on reserve is it will show your status here. This screenshot is from someone that was a line holder, but here it could say reserve. It will show you your existing credit, which is an hourly amount. Maybe you had a carryover trip into the month, jury duty, a special assignment, something that is already causing you to have credit in your month. It shows your base, your bidding seniority, and then if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the message board, one of the most important things that shows up on your dashboard is a hyperlink to the PBS guide and support tab. So there's it's a great resource to find a lot of information about the PBS system. This is where you will do your bidding for your reserve monthly bids. It'll be under your reserve days off tab. A very common mistake that we see people making is bidding their days off in the line holder days off tab or on the main dashboard. But for reserve, you really want to make sure that you're looking at that reserve days off tab. And as we mentioned before, you use a layer concept when you're bidding your reserve lines. Your first layer should include your most important days that you want off, your day or days that you want off. It's recommended to bid no more than 1 day off per layer in your first few layers. But you do have the ability to bid up to a maximum of 12 days off per layer. We would not recommend that you do that. The reasoning for this is that each day that you select off is weighted equally to the other ones that you select in that layer. And that means that if you request off the 10th and the 30th in the first layer, it's going to view those both as equal. If they are equal, that's fine, but a lot of people have different priorities of what is most important for them to hold off during the month. So we would recommend just 1 day per layer in the first couple layers of what days are most important to you to have off. The days that you select in layer 7 are your least important days to have off. Also important to note that they are cumulative through all 7 layers, so there's no need to repeat a day off that was bid in an earlier layer. Here is an important waiver that you will encounter when you are on reserve. It's called the waive to allow carryover to be days off waiver. It's a very long name, but it pretty much says in the title exactly what it is. And you can see on this calendar example that this particular flight attendant has a trip that is coming from their previous month, and it's carrying over into their reserve month on the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. Now, if you select to add the waive to allow carryover to be days off waiver, that means that you're allowing the carryover trip to be on your reserve days off. So those days off, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, would be part of your 12 allotted days off per month. Also, you would be paid the value of these days of the trip above your guarantee. So we have a 75-hour guarantee on a reserve month. Let's say that this trip had 15 hours that carried over into the month, those 15 hours would be paid separately on top of that 75 hours if you used this waiver. Now, if you did not select the waiver, these would become, or they would be reserve days on. So there's a couple benefits to each option. If you allow these to be reserve days on, you did not select the waiver, those hours would go towards your reserve calling out of time for the month. So you would start the month with 15 or however many hours that those 3 days were worth into your reserve cot or your calling out of time amount. So if you're looking to maybe call out of time as fast as possible for the month, that could be beneficial to you. Also, these would be part of your allotted days on reserve. So it's a few less days of the month that you'd have to be anxiously awaiting to see what you were assigned, because you already know what you're going to be doing on those days. If you do apply the waiver and have those days off, the benefits are that you get that extra money above your guarantee. So that really depends on what your goal is for your reserve month. And if you do select this waiver, you do not need to select these days off onto your bidding calendar, because no matter what your seniority is, you would be awarded those as days off with the waiver. The waiver's already selected them as days off for you. But just keep in mind that no matter if you add the waiver or not, you'll still have to follow the rules of a legal days on and off pattern. Here is a slide that just kind of shows similar to what we've been talking about with that carryover trip, but it just talks a little bit more about pre-planned absences. Some pre-planned absences have credit associated with them, which would go into existing credit that we were talking about earlier, that contributes to you calling out of time. And some don't. So the one that we really wanted to point out is your yearly requalification training, CQ training. That does not have any hours associated with it that would help you in calling out of time. But you do get paid a daily rate for attending CQ training that goes above your reserve guarantee. Also, with CQ training on a reserve month, it will be plotted on 2 of your days on reserve. So you're not using any of your days off to go down to CQ in Dallas, but you are having a few less days that you'll need to be on call because you'll be going down to training on those days. So that's kind of nice to have a few days that you know what you're going to be doing on reserve because you're going down to training. But just keep in mind that those 2 days of training will not count to your calling out of time. And then this just notes some other pre-planned absences that might contribute to existing credit. Special assignment, which is could be a variety of things that you're doing for the company, jury duty, vacation, etc. And I'm going to switch over to Jason to talk about some information to do with legal patterns.
All right, so legal patterns. Essentially, you have contractual language that specifies how your days on and off reserve have to follow. So there's a minimum and a maximum number of days in the block of on and off, as noted here in these bullets. You can be on for at least 3, but no more than 6 days of reserve. You can be off for at least 2, but no more than 8 days in a block for your days off. And then you 1 or 2 days on at the end of the month. I don't know if I understand that point, but 1 or 2 days on at the end of the month. You have, if you're going to have days on at the end of the month, it has to have a certain number of availability. So that's maybe an exception. 12 contractual days off per the CBA. So each reserve will get 12 days off. We've kind of already mentioned that. There's also a 6-day look back of the previous month to help you determine your legal pattern for the start of the new bidding month. So in this example on the calendar here, the person had a 4-day trip that comes into the first 2 days of the month. The PBS system will have a 6-day look back to make sure that you're legal for reserve days on or off at the beginning of the month. So you want to be sure to bid according to that, whether or not you have the waivers we've just explained, applied or not. It gets a little bit complicated when you start looking at the carryovers, but you just want to make sure you bid accordingly. Don't put days off where they won't legally be able to go, because that's just a waste of your day off bid. Yeah, so when you are looking at that, though, with your award, if you are forced into days off at the beginning of your month due to legalities, that's something that could happen with a carryover. You could be forced into days off, or you could be forced into days of reserve availability, depending on the legalities of other people. So you might think, oh, well, I'm not the most junior, I should have gotten the days I wanted, but there may be other people who have legalities that don't allow them to work at the beginning of the month. And when we are looking at the days off too, on the calendar for the reserve tab, I don't know if we've called this out anywhere, the number that's at the bottom of each box tells you how many days, or sorry, how many flight attendants need to be available on that day for reserve. That's the projected number from the company. So if you look at the first day of the month for this example, they had 297. The next day, 277. So 297 people will be put on call that day, whether they want it or not. And that's something that you have to take into account with your bids. So speaking of legal patterns, this pattern that's here may or may not be legal depending on the waivers. So we're going to go into a couple other examples here. The one on the left here, and we're going to call that image number 1, is only legal if the waiver is not selected, assuming that was the start of the days off. Make sense? Am I explaining that right?
So the image number 1 has this carryover trip, and we know that the minimum number of days on that you can have is 3. So if this person did not select the waiver, then this is legal because they have 3 days on in the first of the month. But if they did select the waiver to allow carryover to be days off, then these would both be days off. And there's a number of reasons why that would not be legal, because there would only be 1 day of availability here, which we know that the minimum days of availability you need is 3. And there would, well, I guess that's the, oh, yeah.
Also, yeah, so you'd have to look at the potential of having 6 days on with the 4-day trip, and you know, whether or not you have the waiver applied. That really makes a big difference in this specific instance as to whether or not that whole pattern is legal. And so if you did have all of these days off in here, not in the same layer, preferably, again, we want to stress that you don't want to put all 12 days in the first layer, because that's going to tell them that it's all equal. But that pattern wouldn't be able to be followed because of legalities, depending on if you have the waiver applied. Again, it gets a little complicated, but just to simplify it, you have to follow minimum and maximum days on and off with this. And then, so the first one is possibly legal, but possibly illegal. It could, you know, be confusing. Number 2 is illegal for a couple of reasons, but primarily the number of days that they have asked for off in a row, and to allow only 2 days of reserve on the 9th and 10th. That's not a legal window for the company. So they'd have to have at least 3 there. And then to have this number of days on, we have the 13th through the 19th. That's a full 7-day block of reserve days. You wouldn't be able to get awarded that schedule. That's not legal. So I think that
the maximum number of days on is 6.
Yeah.
So in that example, they have 7 days on, which is not.
The second's a little more obviously illegal. So.
Yes.
So talking about days off, we have 2 types of days off: flex days and golden days, as we previously mentioned. And once your schedule is posted, which comes out the 18th, there's a next step before you can arrange your schedule, if you will. The Flex Days and Golden Days app is something that pops up on the crew portal on the 20th of the month at noon. And it's open until the 27th of the month at noon. And you use this to specify which days on, or which days off will be flex days, and which days will be golden days. So flex days are days that you can be scheduled into. So if you're on your last reserve day and you have a flex day the next day, the company can, depending on the availability of the flight attendants that are on call, they can potentially assign you into your flex day. They can give you something that flex day or days if you have more than one. In this example, there's 2 blocks of 2 flex days. So those people could potentially be assigned into both of those flex days. Golden days, the company cannot assign you into. So that's something that's pretty cut and dry in the contract, that golden days are your days off. So if you are looking at this app and you're trying to determine how to designate flex days versus golden days, you'll be able to manipulate it just by, once you're in it, clicking the gold or the blue. It'll alternate it to the other type. So if it's a golden day, you click it, it turns into a flex day on there. And then you have to follow, again, the contract. You have 4 flex days and 8 golden days. You can't exceed or under either side of that. It has to be legal pattern. And then at the bottom, once you've changed it to how you wanted to change it, you can hit save. And if there's any issue, it will tell you what the issue is and why it wouldn't allow that pattern. So that's, I think, pretty clear on that. At the very top, there's a little information button next to Golden Flex Days, and that will give you more information about patterns and what you have to follow with each type. There's also more resources on the APFA site for Flex Days and Golden Days. If you go to apfa.org, on the job, reserve resources, and then Golden Day Flex Day. That's the path to get to that. Did I miss anything? No. Okay. Okay, cool. So next is trading reserve days, which as of now, we can trade reserve days off. It's actually days off. It's not reserve days. I guess that should be clear. Days off with ETB and other flight attendants. So if you have a day off that you want to trade for someone else's day off, you can post it on ETB, similar to how people post trips on there. You can also potentially change your days off with the company by just calling through scheduling through the phone. You also do have to confirm your flex day, golden day pattern on that app that we just showed before you can change your schedule with ETB. That applies to picking up trips as well. So if you wanted to pick something up on your days off, you have to first set the pattern for flex days, golden days. And then in the future, there is implementation coming for a trading system where you'd be able to electronically trade your days off with the company. So we'll see when that rolls out.
I did think of something that I wanted to add about flex days and golden days, just that your reserve days off are based off of seniority, what days you can hold off, but your flex day, golden day pattern is just based off of the legal patterns. So it's not like something that you have to try to hold based off of your seniority. They're just based off of the pattern rules. So you can change it to any pattern, any legal pattern based off of these pattern rules that are on the screen right now.
Yeah, if you had a really important event on a certain day and you had that as a day off and it was legal to designate it as a golden day, for example, that's something you'd want to do. And it wouldn't deny you based on seniority. That's a great point. Daily bidding. So we already covered monthly bidding, where we bid our days off for reserve months. And then, as you may or may not know, depending on how long you've been on the line, your daily bidding is going to play a big part into your life on reserve. So when you are on call for X number of days, there's daily bidding that you can use to help determine what type of assignment or award you can have. We have on the main crew portal page, there's a reserve tab, and you'll see ROTA/ROTA D bidding. And then when you click that link, it's going to take you to a page where you can actually apply daily bids. So we call like a reserve daily bid. This will help determine what your obligation is on your days that you're available. So for today, you would go in by the time that it runs, which is 3 o'clock. That's the cutoff. You'd go in and you can set bids for tomorrow's operation. That's one type. That's through ROTA, R-O-T-A there. And then ROTA D would be beyond that, after the first 3 o'clock run, anything that opens up beyond that. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but the types of assignments that you can be given off of off of ROTA are going to be sequences, trips, standby, or RAP, which is a reserve availability period. Okay. So awards and assignments. An award is a sequence or a standby shift that you requested because you wanted that. So you go in, sorry, got it. You go in and specifically or generically bid for that sequence or standby shift. And then that also would apply to ROTA D for an aggressive, generic, or specific bid. And again, we'll get into that more on the next couple slides. An assignment is a sequence or standby shift that was assigned to you as you were the next flight attendant legal for the assignment. So award versus assignment. It's just a technical term that scheduling will use. If you ask for something, it's an award, and if you didn't, it's an assignment. For the way that you are assigned things uses contractual grouping logic. So you are grouped based on the number of days of availability you have. So if you are good for 1 day, 2 days, up to 6 days, so that's the max, but anything more than 4, it groups you in 4+. Sequences are also grouped by the number of days that it touches. So then when you're going in and you're bidding for a trip, if you have 4 days of availability, and let's say you really wanted to do a turn on day 1 of 4, you might not be able to get that even though you are legal for it, because the company might need more people in the 4-day grouping. So there's logic that is applied by crew scheduling for this. So that's what the open grouping and closed grouping logic is. And it's spelled out clearly in 12J5, which is a contractual section of the CBA. If you are so an open grouping will allow you to be given something outside of your grouping. So if you're in, I don't want to get too complicated with it, but if you're in the 4-day category and that group is open, there's enough people on call for 4+ days, then it would allow you to take something from open time for your assignment. Depending on your seniority, it'll allow you to take that outside of your grouping. So if your grouping is closed, meaning there's not enough people on for 4 days, it will not let you, even if you were legal for it, because it needs you to be on call for the 4-day plus. So that's clear enough on that. I think the puzzle piece is kind of the way it feels. You're a piece in the puzzle, and they are going to use you as they need to. And the standby shifts also do have a required number of days available. So there's times where you might only be good for 1 day, and that standby shift might need a 2 or more day of availability. So just keep that in mind when you don't get the assignment you think you should have gotten. ROTA. ROTA is the future assignment of your trips. ROTA is a reserve open time assignment. That's the acronym. It runs 1 time daily after 3 p.m. home base time, and it must be published by 19:30, so 7:30 p.m. home base time. So the company has that time window to give you your award or assignment. You can bid on this page. You can see how the reserve bid works, and if you've already done this before, this is going to seem very familiar, but you make sure you're selecting the correct day. You can name the item for your bid. So if you wanted a specific type of trip, like you wanted a 2-day with, position 1 only, you can put all of that in here with the criteria. And even though I said that's specific, that would be a generic bid. If you're just putting in 2 days, specific bid is actually looking at trips that are specifically in the system. Generic is setting criteria for a type of trip that you'd want. You can bid for generic trips, specific trips, standby shifts, or you can bid for a reserve on-call period, which is remain on call, reserve availability period, we would call RAP A, B, C, or D. And you can specify all that with the drop-down menus here.
And they just have to be, I think he said this already, but they just have to be in the system before 3 o'clock home base time, your selections. And then also it's just important to know that these daily bids only stay in the system for that day. So if you put them all in today, after the run is completed, you'll want to make sure that tomorrow you input your preferences again.
Great point. So here we have a little bit more of a view of what a generic ROTA bid could look like, and you can see how the drop downs work. Just a little point, if you are doing bidding on a mobile device like an iPhone or a iPad or something like that, it may look a little different when you're selecting the items from the drop down menu.
Would you like to show one?
Oh, sure. So is it going to be logged in, you think?
Probably not.
Did it not do it? Oh, wait.
That and see.
What?
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Let's try.
We'll see if this is still logged in here, but
And just log in if you want. I don't care.
sure. So we'll show you in real time how you can input different types of reserve bid entries. This first one that we'll show you is the generic sequence and how you have the option of adding different criteria that you'd like to bid for.
We're doing a generic one.
Yes, let's do generic first.
So we're looking at one this is for tomorrow's operation, because I'm putting it in for the ROTA run for today. So I want to get a 2-day.
And the reason this is for tomorrow is because home base time right now is 1:36 p.m. So we're making sure that we have this generic bid in for the run that will start at 3 o'clock.
And it only lets you go, I believe that's the maximum, is a week out. If you knew you were coming up on call for Monday and you knew you're going to be busy on Sunday, you didn't want to forget, you could put one in advance. That's why it lets you select these dates here.
But it will default till tomorrow.
Yeah, defaults for tomorrow. Then, yeah, so let's say I wanted to put in for a 2-day, and I was also okay with a red eye, because the red eye turns are considered 2-day trips because it touch 2 calendar days. If I wanted that, and I could be more specific if I wanted to, but just bear in mind, the more specific you are, the less likely that you might get that if it's not going to open up a trip like that.
So you can use one generic bid criteria, or as Jason did here, you can combine
multiple. Yeah, you can add as many of these different types as you like, as long as they don't contradict each other, I think. And then also on the same bid item, you see there's generic sequence, remain on call, specific sequence, standby wrap. Should we just show them a specific one if there's anything that's open?
We'll
should
have
be.
how to save this one
Oh,
with the title.
okay.
And
Okay,
then,
sure.
You can name it anything that you would like to, that makes sense to you. And that way, when you have them all saved, you can place them or alter your order of priorities of which ones you would like. So this one he's saving as
I'm just changing
a
it.
3-day.
Yeah, let's do a 3-day.
So it's just going to be he's willing to fly or requesting to fly any 3-day that might become available.
So I've just called it 3-day. You can call it whatever you'd like.
Right. And
then you can edit it or delete it on this page as well. I don't want to be considered in the ROTA run. I'm not on call today, so I'm just going to delete it. You can see what it looked like.
And now we can show what a specific.
Yeah, so again, I just went to go add a new one, and then we can go to bid item specific sequence. And then it just has this pop-up here for sequence lookup. When you do that, you'll get a pop-up, and it will show, wow, we have a lot of trips open for tomorrow, and you can go through and start looking at them here to see what's specifically open. And you can bid on as many or as few as you'd like in each of your bids. So with that, you can see the trip details are displayed, at least like the general trip details. You can see like this first one is a 3-1, so 3 legs, 1 leg, layover in Miami. So it's a 2-day trip. You can see the report and the release times here. You can also you can expand it to expand the caret down, and you can see which positions are open on the trip. And you could check that one specifically, or maybe you wanted them all. You could check the box at the top. If you wanted to see more of the trip details, for example, what those 3 legs are, you can click the hyperlink here, and it brings up another pop-up, and then you can see the trip details. You can see the hotel that you'll be laying over at, and you can see the crew list here as well. So that's all very useful if you're looking at specifically bidding. You can also use this toolbar at the top to sort trips, or you can filter it out. So you can say, I want to see them in order of, I want to see all the turns first. It's going to show you all the open trips first, and then you'll see there's 97 on here. So 97 different entries. There's 10 pages. So it's going to show the open ones first. And then if it doesn't show open here, then that does not have any open positions currently.
You can still select to potentially have one of the ones that does not have a position open. That way, if it does open up between the time that you input your bid and the time that ROTA runs, you could still potentially be awarded that.
Yeah. And another way that you can really filter out, you can apply a filter to see what types of trips there are. And, you know, if you don't want to scroll through and look at them all, like if you really wanted to get some NIPD, because that pays NIPD pay, you know, you wanted to maybe get one of those. Or if you can look for different layovers or whatnot, you can sort out all sorts of things with the filtering. So these examples are 3 trips that have NIPD categories, and they have current open positions. So that's another way you can just kind of see what's available.
And important to note, just sort of a side thing I always like to remind people is a trip can be NIPD as long as one leg of the trip is an NIPD leg. NIPD meaning like a Caribbean or
Central America,
international non-premium destination. And it might not necessarily be the layover. So you can see these have Miami and Phoenix layovers, but they're considered NIPD trips based off of what the individual legs of the trip are operating.
Right.
Just something important for you to know.
Okay.
And we can show you.
I'll show you
how
just
to save
how
one.
to save. I'll just save that one specifically here. So I checked the whole trip, and so it checked all 4 positions, and then we can bid selections, and then you go back to the screen and you can see that now it's got these specific positions on this specific trip here, and I could put in Miami 2-day. I don't know if that's what it even was. I think it was.
Yeah.
And then you can save the bid, and again, you'll see
And just
now it's on the
leave
list.
there without deleting it for a
Okay.
minute so they can see how to
Sure.
how to add up.
Okay.
Next, let's show how to add a standby bid.
Okay. So we just went to go add new, and from the bid item, standby. And what type of criteria do you want to have? Do you want me to?
So yes, as he's showing you, you have the option to add different criteria to narrow down the type of standby shift you would like to have.
We're gonna put report after 8 a.m. because I want to sleep in. So
Perfect. Sleeping in.
sleep in.
yeah,
That's not really sleeping in that much if you got to be there by 8 a.m. But that's better than 4 a.m. for me.
Right. So you can just add in some properties that will narrow down the type of standby shift that you will be awarded. This how you bid for standby trips is going to have some improvement in the future based off of the CBA, but for now you just narrow down the standby selections based off of the criteria that you're adding here.
I need to go back to the slideshow.
Yeah, let's just go back to the slideshow really quick. So that was the generic, the specific, which we went over.
So did the live demo for you on that.
And then standby, this little chart over to the right-hand side shows the standby shifts for the particular month here in Chicago. Not really sure which month this was, if it's this month or last month, because the standby times may change month to month, but there is a way to look up what the standby times are for your base. To do that, you go through crew portal, departments, crew planning, current bid sheets, and then the PBS cover sheet. So I probably should have wrote that on the slide, but
should we just demo
we
it real
can
quick?
show you exactly.
Okay, so tell me again.
You go to crew portal.
Okay. I think I can go from the toolbar too.
Sure. And then departments.
Okay.
Crew planning.
Yes, we'll navigate away. That's fine. I don't need that standby shift yet.
Current bid sheets.
Oh. Hold on. Where did that?
Departments,
okay, we're gonna try again.
All right, so now we're on the crew planning page. Current bid sheets down on the left. And then PBS cover sheet. And there's a lot of great information on this PBS cover sheet that applies to bidding timelines, just, yes, staffing, you'll see that eventually, after you get through a lot of great information, you will come to the chart.
Almost there. There's the
for-
wrap times. Okay, here we go. Standby
Standby.
information.
This is a little bit microscopic, but you can zoom in for your base. And here, over here, you'll see for May 2025, Chicago has all of these standbys that you can bid for. So you'll want to base your selections of your criteria when you're bidding for a standby shift to fit into the parameters of what is on that chart. You also could be assigned a standby shift day of if for some reason all of the standbys have been used and crew scheduling decides that they want to have someone else come in on standby. And so those standbys might operate outside of this chart, but for ROTA, when you're bidding for the next day, these are the standbys that you can bid for.
Okay.
Next is
a wrap bid.
Yes, so this is when you bid for a wrap reserve availability period. So this is when you're just saying, you know, I don't really like or don't really want any of the trips that are in open time, don't really want a standby. What I would like to do is just remain on call for the next day if possible, and see if maybe something pops in tomorrow that I'd like to bid for, or just ride it out and see what I end up getting assigned. So
4th through the 9th.
Let's see. Yes, so it allows you to request to remain on call. And then if you're electing to remain on call, you should also put in your wrap preference. If you do not place a wrap preference, it will default to ABCD. So if you do not want your preference to be ABCD, we recommend that you rock and then wrap. That's what we say, rock and then wrap. You remain on call and then you add your wrap preference.
And while you're talking about that, I'll just go ahead and add one in and show you exactly what that'll look like. So if I'm going to add the remain on call marker on there, telling them that I don't want a trip if I don't have to get one, it adds it here. And then you'll notice can add in a wrap preference, and I'm going to put in wrap B, C, D, and then A, because again, I like to sleep in a little bit. So I'm going to ask for B and then C.
And you'll be able to see the wrap start and end times right there on the page when you're bidding your wrap. Also, it's located on that cover page of the PBS bid packet that we were at before. When you saw the standby times, the wrap times are there as well. So there's a couple different places that you can see them. So just remember that you want to have remain on call and wrap. Those are two things that are paired together. You always want to make sure that if you're remaining on call, that you input your wrap preferences.
And then
and none of these are a guarantee. If there's hundreds of trips that are open and open time and you just put in remain on call, there's a good chance you're still going to get awarded a trip. So you can always change the order here where I really want to remain on call, but if I can't remain on call, I'll be willing to work this Miami 2-day.
Yeah.
Or I really want to work this Miami 2-day. If I can't work this Miami 2-day, I'd rather remain on call. So there's ways to organize the priority of your preferences. Everyone wants different things. So you can use those arrows under priority to arrange your bids however you'd like them.
So while we were talking, I just added another one to help show that you can reorganize them however you'd like. So let's, in this now example that what I just added is saying, oh, I really want any IPD first, and then I want to remain on call. And if I can't stay on call, I want to get the Miami 2-day. And then if I do get on call, that's the order that I want. So that's kind of the
So your
further
preference
explanation.
is to stay at the bottom, but that's just because it's kind of like a secondary thing to the remain on call. You don't have to worry about putting that in order.
Yep, but you can reorganize the other ones there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now do we need to go into?
I think you can probably delete all those if you want.
Okay. Do it
Just
real quick. Yeah, if you don't delete things, it will consider you for anything that you're legally being considered for. So just pay attention to what you have in there. And there we go. Because that was in the real system, that wasn't a test.
Right.
All right. So now looking at ROTA D. So this is the daily assignment of open time. So when we are looking at open time, it's going to follow the assignment that the contract spells out. So that's kind of briefly and vaguely explained on this bullet list. It's a very long list that's in section 12K2 in the CBA. So you can look at that and interpret all of that language. The line holders do get first grabs at it through trades or pickups through the UBL system, which is part of the TTS system. So on reserve, that's not something that you work with. Aggressive reserves then would get something through an award. So we'll get to aggressive bids in a second. And then if no line holder or no aggressive bidder wanted that trip, it goes to the next person on RAP to be called. Unless it's under the minimum call out time, at that point, it would go to a standby flight attendant. So that's just the very simple explanation. Again, for the full order, you would want to follow the contract section.
So a couple things, since you're probably new, if you're listening to this, CBA stands for Collective Bargaining Agreement. That's our new contract that we're working under. And then also, right, ROTA D. If you were assigned a sequence or a standby on ROTA the day before, ROTA D doesn't really apply to you because you already know what you're going to be doing the next day. ROTA D is for people that have been assigned remain on call with a RAP for the next day. And now it is that next day. And you can utilize ROTA D to bid for something that you would like to do that day.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that explanation. Just like in PBS, there's a waiver. There's also waivers with daily bidding for reserves. So in the drop down of those, when you click the caret down and show future bids, and you'll see the bids would be below it. I can show you again in a second, but the waiver screen is here on the bid. So it shows all of the different choices that we have. And there's a ton of resources on the APFA website, on the job, reserve resources, and then there's a ROTA D deep dive that you can click into to really get into the good stuff on this. The biggest one that we want to call it is probably the 35 and 7, I think. Yeah, so the 35 and 7 is a waiver that if you apply it, it's going to allow you to be worked 35 hours in a 7-day period. And once it's applied and actually used for an assignment or an award, then it applies for the rest of that contractual month. So that's something we want to make sure you understand. If you are waiving that, it's applied for the month. The other waivers are all for that specific trip or assignment and will not carry on for the rest of the month. So does that hit that enough?
Yeah, I think that's good. Right. You said that it's for awarding 35 hours. You can be awarded up to 35 hours in 7 days. The waiver allows you to be awarded above that.
Okay.
So waiver, there's basically a lot of rules that are in place so that you have protections of how much you're worked while you're on reserve. So things like required home-based rest amounts, which is that one. There's things like waiving. Yeah, you can go ahead and go to the live. You're required to have a certain amount of home-based rest. The system will try to give you rest in between reps. And as long as it fits an operational need, will not assign you above 35 hours in 7 days. So there's certain sort of like benchmarks that it will assign you within, and then you can waive them. just beware of waiving things. That's really if you are trying to work a lot or maybe really trying to call out of time, then you would maybe want to utilize these waivers.
Mhm.
But these rules are put in place to ensure that you get proper rest.
And you know what you're
still have
signing
a
up for
life,
when you
so-
click the waiver. That's really important.
Right. So just use caution and understand what the waiver is before selecting it, especially the 35 and 7 that Jason said, since that one cannot be undone once it is put into play.
Okay.
Did you want to show the APFA website?
Sure. Oops. I can type. There we go.
So I'm not sure if you guys have gone to the APFA website before, but it has so much information on there, apfa.org. A lot of the information you don't not have to log in for, but some of it you do, so just keep in mind. For this, you go to on the job, reserve resources, and then you'll see all these different tabs here that have tons of information. This particular information about waivers is under ROTA D Deep Dive.
I think I have to go into.
Maybe.
Oh, down.
Okay.
Sorry, there's
Just
more.
So
Yeah.
yes, you can see it's the second one
Yeah,
there.
because that's
There's
under ROTA. There we go. ROTA
Yeah.
Deep Dive.
there's so much information here if you really want to deep dive into it. So here you
If you see one of these purple boxes, that's got to highlight information that they definitely want you to know because it's a common question. So that's something to look for when you're scrolling through all these pages. There's a lot of details, and I don't think we have time to really go into what's
Right.
shown here, but
But it
please
will
use
show-
this resource because they've worked hard to organize this information usefully for you.
and then scrolling down, it will give you details about what all of the different waivers are.
Award, logic, assignment, logic. Yeah, all of that's here. And then waivers are down below as well. Okay.
Yeah. So I
Anything
just
else
wanted
then?
to
Okay.
show what the website looks like and how to get to some of those resources.
Okay. And standing bids. Yay. So standing bids are if you want, I mean, I think it's probably pretty self-explanatory, but you're putting something in and it's that you don't want to do an individual bid every single day for something. So maybe you're someone who wants to always be on rep A, or you want to just you max out your hours and you want as many trips as you can get. You can put in standing bids and they can go through ROTA and ROTA D, both systems. You can also apply waivers to them. And I just want to give you advice to use caution, because if you do put a standing bid in, it'll be used for every potential time that it can be. So a ROTA run is again at 3 o'clock to 7:30. That's for your assignment for tomorrow, and it will only be used if you don't have a default, or it'll be used as a default if you don't have any other bids in for the day. So that's something that's important to know there. If you see on the tabs that we have shown here, there's the original future bids. That's where we were doing the bids a few minutes ago. Aggressive bids, which I didn't specifically touch on yet.
So
Maybe we
future
will.
bids is ROTA A, aggressive bids is ROTA
ROTA
D.
D. And then standing future, and then standing aggressive. This one's fine too. I mean, they're all fine. It's standing future bids is less harmful potentially if you didn't really want a trip and you forgot you had one in. But it still will run for the ROTA run if you don't have something in. And standing aggressive bids will be used every day based on your bids / waivers. So the reason we're saying be careful is if you have you had something, because you can actually use these for day off pickups as well. So if the company is really hurting for reserves and they have trips that are going uncovered, they could potentially go to someone who checks the box to be awarded into their flex and golden days. So if you have that waiver box checked and you have a standing aggressive bid in for an IPD and London opens up and they need you to go, you're getting the trip if it comes to you. So just know what you have in there and don't leave them unattended. So that's why we say use caution. You don't want to get assigned something that you're not physically able to do if you're not even in base or what on your days off. So that's my caution.
Right.
And so standing
And
bids.
just remember how I said that your ROTA bid is for that day and you and that day only, and then it'll remove itself from the system. Standing bids stay in the system until you remove them.
Oh, yeah.
So ROTA bid for tomorrow, you put it in, and then when you go in for ROTA the next day, they're not going to be in there anymore. They're just used once. But the standing bids stay in there until you go in and physically remove them. I think Jason kind of said that, but it's just something that's important to
quickly
remember.
demo that too, so you can see. So if I add in one for today, a standing future bid for wrap BCDA. I don't know. Okay, what's going on? BCDA. I don't think this will take too long, so I can show it real quick.
So he's under the standing future bid tab. So again, future bids is ROTA for the next day.
So I've added something here and I've got save bid. Okay, so it's under standing future. Now at the very top, you can see this, the summary, you know, the calendar shows you all the dates, and then you click on the date, you can see if you had any specific types of bids in under that. So you see standing future has nothing for yesterday, and now it's in there for today, standing future, wrap BCDA. And I believe, don't fail me system, show what you've got. Yeah, so now under the 20th, you'll see that that standing future bid is still there.
Right.
So it's applied until you delete it for that.
So it can be, like he said, a good thing to have in there, just in case you forget to input any ROTA future bids for the next day, then there's something, a default in there to use. But again, just be careful because that's what will be used, and you might want to update it. Alrighty, what's next?
Okay. So under the same set of tabs, there's the one for pickup on Flex Day, Golden Day bids. This one you can use to specifically try to pick up from open time on your days off. It is processed in the spelled out order in the contract. So that's, again, to be taken into consideration. If there's reserves available, they're going to give it to the reserves that are available before they give it to someone through this on their days off as a reserve. So then it must originate and release within your day off block. It will not capture any trip that overlaps on your reserve days. So if you had one more day off and then you had 3 reserve days and you wanted to put in for a 2-day starting today on your last day off, it would not consider that because you're on reserve tomorrow. So that's something to keep in mind. And then this is a way that you could potentially get red flag pay on a trip. So that's the 150% that people often chase, especially when we have IROPS weather and stuff. So you'll hear people talking about red flag, and as a reserve, you don't get red flag on your reserve days, but if you're on your days off and you pick up through this, you could get it. So
And these pickup on Flex Day and Golden Day bids remain in the system for 1 day. They're not a standing bid, so that's something that you'll have to go in and add when you are wanting to pick up on your Flex Day and Golden Days.
okay. ATV pickups on days off. So this isn't part of reserve bidding, but being that you were talking about being on reserve, this is there are parameters that we want to work within and explain. So the contractual parameters of picking up on ETB, it must be on a day off and after you're released from reserve duty. The hours that you pick up go above your guarantee, so they're pay no credit. That's the term that we use. And they do not go towards your reserve calling out a time number. So you won't, if you pick up on your days off, it's not going towards timing out for the month. A red flag trip that's dropped on ETB does transfer the red flag pay, and you'll see that there's a little red flag icon that pops up on the ETB page if someone is dropping one that they maybe forgot and they got an award they didn't want or something came up. So that happens. Also with ETB, it freezes nightly between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. because the TTS system is running for the line holders. So every night at 11, if you go in to pick something up at 11:01, it's going to basically put it in a queue and it won't process until 4 a.m. So because it's going to be locked out for changes at that time. So you might think you didn't get it because it didn't go through, you didn't get a notification, but then at 4 a.m. you might get it because it ran. So just be mindful with that when you're picking up, especially if it's in that time frame.
And especially if it's an early
Yeah,
sign-in,
if it had a
because
6 a.m. sign in and you don't find out till 4 a.m., that's going to be not what you had in mind probably. So then coming soon, there is the use of TTS and UBL for reserves to pick up on days off. So that's something we'll be rolling out when it's time. So that's exciting.
Right. We won't get into the TTS and UBL systems on this because right now reserves cannot utilize those, but we will get more into that in the future.
Okay.
Looking forward to that. This page is very
that page is actually not supposed to
it's
be in
going
here.
to be, yeah, I'll say it really fast.
Okay.
Because One Alerts is what we use right now to get push notifications for a variety of different things, whether it's ROTA, ROTA D, assignments and awards, delays, gate changes, ETB requests, things like that. We can get text messages to our phone, CCI push alerts, emails. Right, I just kept it in here, but it's phasing out, sunsetting
In May.
mid-May. So very soon, next month, 1 month away, we will be transitioning to this new system that we're all looking forward to. It's the electronic notification system, or ECS. So you've probably seen some communication from APFA as well as American about the new ECS system. Similar to One Alerts in some ways, where you can receive some alerts for sequence changes, ETB, ROTA, ROTA D, reminders to sign in, etc. It's also, instead of just being the one-way communication system that One Alerts are, it's a two-way communication system between flight attendants and crew scheduling, tracking, and hotel limo desk. So this is not fully rolled out yet, but this is the link or the path to download the ECS app for iPhone or onto your work iPhone EFB is right here. Android users can go to the Progressive Web app from any browser, also at this same hot path. So that's something new that's coming up that we're excited about, and it'll be a way that you can get texts or notifications through email, etc., about your awards and assignments. So very helpful.
I believe as of now, the ECS app has been pushed to all of the EFBs. So if your EFB has been turned on and updated, it should already have that on there. You'll just need to open it and set it up so that you can start using the system.
Yes, exactly. So yes, please do that. We're looking forward to seeing that work in real time next month.
Okay.
The daily call out report. So this is I want to show it live, but we probably shouldn't because it has people's information on there, right? But it's the daily call out list for who is going to be assigned a sequence or a standby, or who's put in things that are assigned aggressively. So the most important one, in my opinion, is assignment sequence. And you can put in your base, the date, and click assignment sequence, and it will show the order or the different groupings of flight attendants and how they are going to be assigned. So it will show different buckets of the flight attendants that are good for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 4+ days. And maybe if you're at home right now, you can take a look at this for your base. I don't necessarily want to show it because it does have people's
Employee numbers
information on
and
there.
stuff. Yeah.
But it gives a little bit more transparency and clarity to where you are on the list. Now, keep in mind that you may see that you're number like 75 on the list, but that's just because they go in order of
Days of
days of
availability.
availability within your rep. So you may think you're really far down on the list, but you could be number 1 for a 4-day trip. So you want to pay attention to how many flight attendants are in your days available group and see where you're at on the list that way. Also, if there's a trip that has 8 positions that goes into open time, flight attendants can be used very quickly off that list. So don't depend wholly on it, but it is a way to see some transparency and be able to see that you might be getting called next.
Yeah, no, it's good. Just to explain the differences, I guess, between the 3 is that the assignment sequence, like she said, is probably the one you're going to look at the most, is just to see what order am I in to get the trip. Assignment standby is the same logic, but what order is it that I'm in to get a standby shift assigned to me? So, because again, you can be assigned a standby shift off of a wrap. So that's going to show you who's next, essentially, for a standby assignment. And then aggressive is going to be the list of people who have aggressive bids in for anything. You can have 1 aggressive bid in or 20. It's just going to show you on the list. So looking at the list, you can't tell what other people are bidding aggressive for, but it gives you an idea as to, are a lot of people trying to fly or not. It's not a tool that you can guarantee anything with, but it does help you see. Because if there's a ton of people on that list, then maybe you might sit on call for a little longer than you thought, because a lot of people who could be senior to you could be asking for trips. So that's just the 3 different types there. And then at the very top, once you go and view report, there's a top toolbar above the first name, and it shows each category for each column. And then within that, there's a box where you can actually type. You can filter out things by wrap. You can type in A, and it'll just show you wrap A people. Or you can put in 3 for the number of days available. It'll show you all the people that have a 3 in the column. So just sorting stuff can be helpful to see that relative to where you are.
And it'll also show, again, it's just really helpful to be able to see that list. So sorry that we're not showing it to you, but it'll also show over on the right-hand side what the person was assigned or if they're not available. So sometimes you might see not available because they're out sick, or maybe they were assigned a trip today that's carrying over until tomorrow. So they were originally on wrap tomorrow, but they got a trip today, so now they're no longer available for tomorrow. But you can see on the right-hand side what people have been assigned or what their status is as well, which can be helpful.
Yeah.
And I think that is the end of our slideshow here. This is just some information about who we are and how you can reach out to us through our email, or we do have a centralized base phone number, which is listed there. This is the ORD APFA number that you can call or text at any time, and one of our base president or vice president or a base council rep will get back to you. This can be anything from questions about this presentation or any sort of questions that you'd like to ask your union. That's where you'll reach us.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have tons in the chat. I do see one question in here for, could you please explain what remain on call is again? Sure, we can explain that. Do you want to touch on that? I mean,
yes.
Well, I don't know that the slide really shows much, but I
Right.
can
No,
go back and
that's
look.
a great question. So when you're bidding for ROTA, which is future, ROTA is for tomorrow's assignment. Yes. So you have a couple different ways that you can bid. So I'm going to be on call tomorrow. I want to put in my preferences for what I'm given tomorrow before 3 p.m. And I could put in a generic trip, maybe just any 3-day, or I could put in a specific trip, which would be sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. I really like that one, to Phoenix. Or I can put in the standby and put in the specific parameters that describe a standby, or the remain on call. And remain on call is when you're not getting assigned anything for the next day except the time that you'll be on call. So you're not getting assigned a specific sequence to show up at work for, and you're not getting assigned a standby time to show up at the airport for. You're getting assigned time to stay at home and be on call. So you're remaining on call at home. You don't have to report to the airport. And then you'll be assigned a wrap with it, which is the times that you need to be on call available to the company. So if you're remaining on call, you're staying home and you need to be available if you get wrap A from 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. to the company.
Yeah, so I think that makes it pretty clear, but again, it's just if you want to stay on call, you should put in a ROC, an ROC bid. That way it tells the computer, hey, don't give me a trip unless you have to. And then with that, you want to couple it with a wrap bid telling them what time you prefer to stay on call. So they go hand in hand, but you don't have to do either of them. You could still be given a wrap if no trip is assigned to you or awarded to you. You could still be given a wrap. So you will get something, whether it's a trip, a standby, or a wrap. You will get something. You won't be given a ROC or remain on call. You'll be given a wrap. So just to be extra clear with it. Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat. And if you have further questions on that, please feel free to email us if we need to explain something further. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So thank you for attending and for watching if you're not attending it on the live day. And we appreciate you being here, and we're excited to have you on the team, especially if you're new. So.
And again, feel free to reach out to us at
sorry,
these email addresses. I just wanted to put it. Oh, I'll let Jason do that.
Just go all the way through it.
But I just wanted to show you our emails again. And also we do have an APFA Instagram account as well as Chicago APFA a Facebook account. So those are also some great resources for information. And please save that phone number in your phone to call or text with any questions. So thank you so much for joining us.